I'm Jack Collins, host of the Ranks FC podcast, and you're watching Pimp My Team here on Chasing Green Arrows. This is going to be a running theme through my game week, is that I'm really concerned about cancellations, right? So what I'm trying to do is get everyone having 14 players who look like they're going to feature. And the big one here that stands out massively for me is having Ben Foster in here. I bring in Juste XI of Wolves. They've been really stingy defensively. Now I know that these next few games might be a little bit tricky in Wolves' kind of lineup, but I think that Wolves have been a real impressive force defensively. They have not conceded many under Bruno Lage, and Juste XI has been a massive part of that. Feels like a real upgrade on Patricio, which I didn't think a lot of people thought before the start of this season. It was a bit of a gamble, I thought, in that sense. So that was the one that jumped out for me. I'd bring Juste XI, and then there's two decent goalkeepers that if one of them gets pulled off, you've still got someone you can trust between the sticks. I'm pulling Marcos Alonso out of this team. I'm not convinced, one, he's going to be playing, and two, that at the moment he has anywhere near the same impact that he's been having in previous years. I think he might be a little bit of a spent force in some regards. I'm bringing in Diogo Dalot for him, who I spoke about in my team reveal, but I think he's going to be massive for Ralf Rangnick. That would be the free transfer I'd use to just, push this up a level for this week. I'm going to say that Dane Scarlett's in here, and I'd maybe pull him out for Emmanuel Dennis. Or if you're a little bit worried about doubling up on Watford strikers, or the fact that AFCON starts in a couple of weeks, I'm aware that that's still up in the air, and whether Dennis will go is still up in the air. Maybe Odsonne Edouard at Palace. Fancy him if against Spurs. He's already bagged against them twice this season. And then in the game weeks following to start scoring again. Yeah, I love this squad. Really like it. It's really nicely balanced. The only thing that I looked at this and thought interesting was slightly worried about these cancellations. You can just switch Ben Foster for Daniel Blackman, who basically gives you the playing options that's at Watford at the moment with Foster out. It seems like the kind of natural thing to do if those two are, you're not looking at massive monetary changes. It just gives you the option of the person who's actually playing in goal at the moment, which I think is probably a benefit. Yeah, I think that obviously the point is here, we don't know how many free transfers are available. So we're going to just assume it's one and there's not much money in the bank. Romelu Lukaku will break his slump at some point, but right now he feels like the risky option. I would, though, be changing Javier Manquillo. I think that he's not very good and a rotation player. And for the same price, you could have someone else who plays for a team that leak goals, but at least he plays every week in Brandon Williams at Norwich. Now, I think that Norwich are improving, whereas at the moment, I don't feel like Newcastle United are. And I think that's where I'd start with this team, although there's a lot, as you say, that could be looked at. It's one of those where I'd be considering fully hitting the old hitting the old wild card button on this. There's a lot going on here that I don't massively like, I'll be honest. So I'm going to go with Manquillo would be my first person that I'm switching out. But that said, obviously with the cancellations, maybe Manquillo's only in there as a bench player. I just think if you're going to use that and have that kind of option, especially given the amount of things going on right now, Brandon Williams is a better option. I like this a lot. I literally have written down the words I've said, like this a lot. Robertson out for 3 weeks feels like the obvious one. Either you do the straight lock-in change for Tsimikas, you bring him out, you replace him in the side, or I quite like Sergio Reguilon. Now, I know there's two Spurs players in here already, and I would have actually suggested switching Dyer out for him if Robertson hadn't picked up that red card, but 3 games out is a lot of games out. I quite like Reguilon coming back to fitness, and I fancy him to thrive as a wing-back under Antonio Conte. That said, he'd have to win his place back. Ryan Sessegnon was excellent in the Liverpool game. But I do fancy Reguilon, especially if they're rotating during this kind of busy period, to come back and make an impact. So, yeah, maybe the Robertson with Reguilon would be my suggestion. There's Jurgen Locadia on the bench, who I don't think plays football anymore. I'm pretty sure he's gone full time in terms of making music. So respect to him for that career choice. But if you can justify, I know he's clearly in there as the cheapest striker you can get. If you can justify the extra 0.1 to switch Locadia to Joe Gelhardt at Leeds, who's put in some really good performances in a tough period. I watched a lot of him at youth level. I think he's going to be a superstar. But I think just in terms of long term, this, you know, as you can see from this team and the score last week, doesn't need major amounts of work or surgery right now. But if you have that 0.1 to spare, I think you'd be looking at a better long-term reward for a low-cost rotation player. Yeah, I mean, I really like Emmanuel Dennis. I think he's been really, really good. I'm still concerned about Romelu Lukaku. Obviously, he still feels like he's, you know, been ruled out for various reasons. I'm not completely convinced that he's going to be the guy over this Christmas period. As I said, I do think he's going to come back to form. I think he's too good a player to stay in this slump for too long. Obviously, he had injuries, he's had illnesses. There have been plenty of problems for him. I'd be looking at taking Lukaku out here, I think. Now, obviously, we don't know if there's extra money in the bank. You could upgrade, well, or push up to a Harry Kane. Obviously, that's the kind of natural, same kind of price range option for that. But I quite like Gabby Jesus, who's been really impressive when he's played recently. You know, he's picked up a lot of assists. He's playing that wide role more often than not, where I really like him. Does a lot of good work out there for Brazil. And that kind of role wide on the right-hand side suits him. The problem with doing that is that obviously he's this rotation player. The flip side is Alex Lacazette, who seems to be having a little bit of a renaissance, if you will, and seems to be the kind of old head in front of this really exciting attacking triumvirate quartet. Obviously, it's 3 at a time, but these 4 players of Martinelli, Ødegaard, Smith Rowe, and Saka. He seems to be the one who, you know, Arteta has turned to in this problem period and gone, here you go, have the armband, lead this side and be the guy. They've got obviously Norwich away on Boxing Day, and then they have Wolves after that. I think Wolves are a better side. Then they face City and Tottenham. So maybe it's a short-term fix. But Alex Lacazette on Boxing Day is something that's jumps out to me a little bit. I love that. Obviously, Marvelous Nakamba has dropped out of the Villa side with injury after a real kind of, you know, renaissance under Gerrard. He had some real moments and looked like a hell of a player. He's got injured, unfortunately for him, and looks like he's going to be out for the next sort of 6 to 8 weeks minimum. Douglas Luiz has slotted back into that number 6 role where I think he thrives. Look, he's capable of a long-range perler, capable of some impressive free kicks as well. Is he going to score you lots of points every week? No, I don't think so. But I quite like him as a rotation option in that midfield. So I actually really like this from Cesc on the bench. I think I'm going to have to go with the same advice that I gave earlier. That, you know, Ben Foster is jumping out to me on the touchline here. All it takes is your keeper out to not have any points there. I think Daniel Bachmann, same price. That's the easy rotation option. If not, maybe it's time to, you know, to give Michail Antonio a switch. But I can't sit here and say I would do that because I've got him on my own bench waiting for him to return to form. So yeah, I'd be going with Ben Foster for Daniel Bachmann again. You know what? I'm a little bit wary of Emil Smith Rowe here at the moment, just because Gabriel Martinelli is playing so well. And the fact is that Smith Rowe, while he is an immense talent, and no one in the world is kind of debating that, Emil Smith Rowe is excellent. There is zero doubt about that as a case. But considering how well Martinelli is playing right now, I'd maybe bring him in. I'd maybe bring in that straight swap. I'd bring in Martinelli for Smith Rowe. Now, obviously, we're going into a period where there's a lot of games in a lot of days. We're talking Boxing Day, 2 days later, New Year's Day. There's loads going on. So maybe this is the moment where they see this and they go, right, this is the time we're going to give the rotation a little bit more of a swing. And Smith Rowe starts his next one against Norwich. And if so, maybe that's too risky a move. But I do think there is something here in that at the moment, Arteta's first choice side seems to be Martinelli on that left-hand side where Smith Rowe's been so good. Now, Smith Rowe might drop into the middle for Ødegaard. So there's that element to consider as well. But I quite like Gabriel Martinelli at the moment. I think he's going to score goals over this Christmas period. I think he's a really impressive footballer. I think his ceiling is so high. So yeah, on the whole, I'm going to suggest that Gabriel Martinelli is brought in here. This has been Pimp My Team on Chasing Green Arrows. I've been Jack Collins, and that is all from me. Good luck this game week.